Hello, Augies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with episode 177 of Ham Radio Answers. Today we're going to look at the new all-electronic Geochron, or geographic chronometer, that the company has introduced to their customers as a still dazzling but less expensive way to put a Geochron world clock on the wall. But first, a word about our sponsor.
LCSC Electronics is now a sponsor of this channel. LCSC Electronics is an international distributor of electronics parts and is a circuit board manufacturer. Please check out their websites at lcsc.com and easyeda.com.
The Geochron, or geographic chronometer, shows the time anywhere in the world and where it's day or night. In its traditional form, it's a backlit wall map. Noon is shown in the center and the rest of the world on either side. As the sun moves across the sky, the Geochron moves its map to keep track. And as the seasons change, the part of the Earth illuminated in daylight changes too. Needless to say, a mechanical version of this clock, the only kind produced for 50 years, is rather expensive, now running over US $2,000. These magnificent wall clocks have shown up in military situation rooms, adorned boardrooms, and President Reagan gave one to Mikhail Gorbachev as an example of United States engineering. At the company, now in Oregon after moving there from near Silicon Valley many years ago, 6 people still make these expensive mechanical masterpieces. Although some of the internals have changed over the years, the basic presentation hasn't. This video demonstrates what the Geochron does over the course of a year. The portion of the Earth lit by the sun is in the middle. As the time changes, the world moves to the right to keep noon in the center. You can see the position of the sun where it's overhead directly. This changes with the seasons. It's kind of mesmerizing, actually. The map makes use of the NASA dataset showing brightly lit areas during the night. All in all, one can stand and look at this for ages, and it's a great conversation starter. The company has resisted making an electronic version because even high-definition television sets couldn't show enough detail to adequately display the equivalent of the mechanical version. But with the advent of 4K televisions, they've changed their mind. Although they continue to make custom mechanical Geochrons, the much less expensive US $400 electronic version actually offers greater flexibility, plus the option of internal updates. They don't sell the 4K UHD TVs, which are widely available everywhere, but what they sell is a small Intel-based computer that drives the 4K TV. I don't have a 4K TV, but I do have a full HD computer monitor and can show this fascinating device on that. Patrick Bolin of Geochron contacted me and asked if I'd review the new electronic 4K Geochron. I jumped at the chance. Here's what's in the box. Patrick threw in a pen that lights up. Cool. I promised it to my artist wife because she collects pens. The main box is this black box. Opening it, we find the electronic box that runs the Geochron display. It's an X5 computer made by Intel. Be sure to follow the Geochron instructions so that it boots to Android and comes up as the Geochron. Being a computer, the box has 3 USB ports, a wired internet port, built-in Wi-Fi, memory card slots, a headphone jack, and an HDMI port. Several of those aren't used, so leave them be. The box runs on 12 volts supplied by a wall wart. Also shipped is a little white box containing a tiny USB mouse. This is to make putting in the Wi-Fi password much easier. I found that the mouse is hypersensitive, so I held it firmly on the desk with one hand and carefully moved it with the other. Also in the box is a very simple remote. It is the remote which actually controls the Geochron. You need to remove the small USB dongle from the remote's battery compartment, put it into any of the USB slots, then install the supplied batteries into the remote. Not all the buttons on the remote are actually used. Also in the box is a 6-foot HDMI cable. The supplied instructions are cryptic, to say the least. Go to the geochron.com website and watch the video about setting it up. The link to the video is in the notes accompanying this video and is also found at the very bottom of the Geochron 4K webpage. Note that it boots to Geochron. It does need to talk to the internet for time and for updates to some displays, and you can do this with wireless or with a wired connection. Note that it does not support the Wi-Fi Quick Connect function found on many devices today like printers. You actually need to use the mouse on a screen keyboard to type in the Wi-Fi password. Note, if your internet goes down, the Geochron will continue to run on an internal clock. Once the Wi-Fi is up and working, you can disconnect the mouse. You won't need it again unless the system forgets the Wi-Fi password, which did happen to me once. Now, the remote is essential for operation, so the tiny dongle needs to be inserted into any USB port. If you find the mouse frustrating, you can also use the remote arrow keys to set the password, though it will be slow and frustrating. Let's look at the screen. Local noon is always centered. The map rotates slowly to the right, making one revolution in 24 hours. The various time zones are shown lettered. For example, I live in the map's zone T, and the local time is shown at the top. Let's look at options. You get there by pushing the remote's menu button. Note the sections located along the top: General, Layers, Pins, Live, Time, System, and Power Down. By the way, Geochron cautions you to use this latter method of powering down the system. It is, after all, a computer and likes an orderly shutdown. The map that is displayed is the Mercator projection. Like all Mercator projections, it does not display either pole. You have a choice of several map layouts. The first is human, meaning a geopolitical map with cities, boundaries, etc. The topographical map is just that, with greenery and deserts, and only time zone boundaries. Oceanic looks a lot like human. Ham radio gives less detail than other maps and no ocean floor detail, but does mark out call sign prefixes across the world and also worldwide CQ zones. Mixed looks an awful lot like human. Low res is designed for the still common full 1080 HD displays and has a bigger typeface. Note again, only low res is designed for HD displays. You need a 4K or UHD display to really get the most out of the other map options. Timescale can be 12 hours or 24 hours, most useful if you choose to display time in your local time zone. I use radio time, or UTC, so I use the 24-hour clock. You can choose whether to display seconds or not. I like the seconds, if only to show that something is happening on an otherwise nearly static display. The measurement system can be imperial, which the US uses, or metric, which the rest of the world uses, including the UK. This doesn't affect the map display, but does affect overlays such as satellite orbits. Time allows you to display current time or to set it to some other preview time to see what conditions would be then. The analemma is the track the sun traces out on the Earth over the year. Our nearest star goes north in the northern hemisphere summer and south in the winter. Note that the Earth wobbles a bit on its axis, so instead of a straight north-south line, it carves out a bit of a figure 8. You can choose to display or not display the analemma, but it does show the exact current position on Earth where the sun is directly overhead. You'll note that the northernmost tip of the analemma is the Tropic of Cancer, and the southernmost tip is the Tropic of Capricorn. In between those two lines lie the tropics, defined as that part of Earth where the sun is directly overhead at some point during the year. The logo opacity affects only the distinctiveness of the Geochron logo. Start Demo Mode provides a quick year speeded up, showing various things the Geochron can do. The key thing to note is that as seasons change, the part of the Earth illuminated by the sun changes. You can tell at a glance what part of Earth is in sunlight and what is not. Under Layers, you can choose how dark night is. A 1 gives essentially no darkness, whereas 7 is complete darkness. If it's too dark, it's hard to make out various map features. Let's spend a moment on the terminator line. The terminator is the dividing line between day and night. You can make it either sharp or soft. From space, the line is pretty sharp. But hams sometimes like to make it soft to indicate the area of the gray line, an area of enhanced propagation. If you are in the gray line, meaning twilight or dawn, you can see what other parts of the Earth are also in the gray line. Propagation between you and those other parts of the Earth in the gray line can sometimes be exceptional. Of course, as the seasons change, the parts of the Earth that join you in the gray line change. Let's step away from Geochron to software called DX Atlas. This shows the gray line also. It can show the Earth as a sphere, and what gray line means is much clearer. Hams are particularly interested in the gray line. The Geochron's human lights are taken from the NASA publication that show the Earth at night. The lit up parts are where there is sufficient illumination sent skyward to be picked up by spacecraft and serves to indicate where people live in developed and developing countries. There are still great masses of humanity that can't afford to spray light around so haphazardly, so those parts of the Earth are still in darkness at night. A 0 will turn the lights off completely. A plus shows the lights rather dramatically, and a double plus shows them even in the daytime. In the eastern U.S., there are lots of lights, but as you go west into the Rocky Mountains where I live, there are fewer and fewer lights, showing the much lower population. There are currently 3 options for additional map features. One is shipping lanes, again an interesting lesson in geography. You can also do this with air traffic. Again, 0 is none, 7 makes them very strong, too strong really. The third option is air pollution, which is really a surrogate for carbon dioxide concentration. It becomes immediately clear that much of the carbon dioxide being spewed into the air comes from China, although there are, of course, many other primary sources. Pins are locator markers that you can place by moving a point with the arrow keys on the remote or by entering the location in latitude and longitude. I have one here set up from my home. You can label the pins. There is a single control for the size that affects all the pins. Note there is one pin already built in, which shows the current time at the equator of whatever time zone you choose, in my case, Greenwich. Under Live Content, you can add some interest to the display. You can show where the International Space Station is right now, the Hubble Space Telescope, or a mix of satellites. You can show the trail length in minutes. The ISS moves rather quickly, so a 60-minute trail is about 2/3 of the way around the Earth. Under satellites, you have many options, including just the 64 amateur radio satellites currently being tracked. You can very easily clutter the screen with a vast overflow of data. Note that this live content is updated over the internet, and Geochron plans to add additional data and map overlays for you to display. The time display has to do with the main time display at the lower left of the screen. Find the letter of the time zone you want to display. For UTC, choose Z. Then scroll down the list. There are lots and lots of options. I picked UTC. The UTC date is also displayed on the screen. Under System, you can check the Internet status, download system upgrades, set the Wi-Fi settings, and see the About screen. I had to put in the password for my Wi-Fi twice. It should remember it, although I had it forget once, so I had to attach the Minnie Mouse and re-enter it. Please get in the habit of using the standard shutdown procedure. Not doing so can cause issues, just as pulling the plug on your desktop can. Actually, the Geochron is really designed to be on all the time. After being on for hours, mine generates only a tiny amount of heat. The bigger current draw is the monitor itself. I looked online at prices of 4K monitors. They seem to start around $300 and go up rapidly from there. All 4K monitors should work with the Geochron 4K because all 4K monitors will have HDMI input. Given the Geochron 4K costs about $400, you may want to spend about that again on a good 4K monitor or a 4K TV, either of which would work fine. I would recommend wall mounting or on a stand, given the size. Put it where visitors to your home will see it. It's a beautiful piece of eye candy and a great educational tool. It's also a fascinating conversation starter. Geochron is the only manufacturer of worldwide clocks showing time zones everywhere. This would be a nice prestige addition to any ham shack or home. Thanks for all your support, suggestions, and ideas. Please like and share this video. Please subscribe and also click the bell so you'll get email notification of all new videos. I like to distribute knowledge widely, and my videos are free for the viewing on YouTube. LCSC.com is now providing sponsorship to this channel, adding to what patrons are providing via Patreon.com, and to the tip jar at ke0og.net/tip-jar. All is most gratefully acknowledged and appreciated. Thanks for your time, and until we next meet, 73.